So I started my studies at the University of Houston in August of 2013. I was beginning my doctoral work in history, and my specialty was going to be European intellectual history, basically studying the Enlightenment. And one of my first classes that semester was with a Dr. James Martin, and this was a research and writing class, and we all had the opportunity to, you come up with your own topic and do research on it, preferably something that you're going to be doing, you're writing your thesis or doctoral dissertation on. For those who don't know, theosophy was founded by Helena Blavatsky in the late 19th century, and theosophy means God's wisdom, and it's about achieving God's wisdom yourself. It's basically the serpent's lie in Genesis in a real philosophical form. And so I had begun, in my brief exposure to the theosophical writings, I had discovered a similarity in rhetoric, similarity in tone, imagery, with some of the Enlightenment writers. And there was this fundamental faith in the evolutionary progress of man that was also shared between the two. And what I had already discovered by that time during the Enlightenment was its fundamentally anti-Christian position, with very few exceptions. And its faith in the idea that through scientific knowledge, we can become God ourselves, basically. We'll elevate ourselves to the level of gods. And this faith that through knowledge we can become as gods, which the Enlightenment expressed, it occurred to me, was the real-life application of Satan's lie, just like theosophy. And so it was the temptation of Satan himself being played out in history. And so I became convinced of the Luciferian undertones of the Enlightenment. And, albeit it's watered down, it's usually quite subtle, but the Enlightenment thinkers were still, by and large, professing faith in the serpent's lie, indirectly or not. Francis Bacon, I was also going to talk about him in the paper. He's a huge Enlightenment figure, probably the most praised figure by Enlightenment thinkers, because he's the hero who overthrew the old scholastic medieval Christian era of thought. He basically, in layman's terms, there's this analogy where Francis Bacon, he's bringing the inductive method, where we're all bees, we're individual bees doing our own work, whereas the scholastics before them, they had built their philosophical systems like a spider web, where everything hung on the thread previous to it. So we want to get rid of that type of thinking and become true scientists, true inductive reasoning type scientists. And he was also he was a Freemason. He also had there are stories that he had a patron goddess who he communicated with, known as Pallas Athena, the Greek goddess. And if you look up, she is a big figure in New Age, in the New Age movement to this day. New Age, there are channeled messages from Pallas Athena all over the place. So again, there's that connection between Enlightenment era thought and New Age theosophy type stuff. And D'Alembert, one of the French Enlightenment thinkers, he said, we now declare that we owe our tree of knowledge mainly to Chancellor Bacon. So there's that reference to tree of knowledge and the fact that Bacon had come and provided it. So we were going around the table, each expressing what we were going to write about, and it came to me, and after maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute, Dr. Martin, he was sitting to my right, and he started expressing serious agitation, and it quickly turned into kind of a tirade. It was like a demon had possessed him at that second and was trying to get me to shut up. So some other students were kind of questioning my motives. They said, one of them was like, what is the point of this? Which, I mean, you could ask that of anybody's research paper. What's the point of this? Arguing theosophy is an offshoot of the Enlightenment, and I'm sorry if you don't like the fact that theosophical writers profess a faith in Satan. That's not my fault. I was very calm the whole time, did not raise my voice once, hardly said a thing, and so I got up and left, and he threatened to throw me out of the class, and I said, I'm not, I told him about, well, I'll go to the dean, which I realized later that was a very naive thing to say. The dean ended up not helping me at all. Anyway, so I started walking, and I walked down the hallway, and I could hear him. He had begun yelling again about me to the rest of the students, like, you know, how ridiculous is this? This is just a bunch of crap.
I don't know what is going on with you. It is a simple matter. 5 out of 6 people made the appointments easily last week. Didn't they? Right. You didn't. I'm telling you to go away. Go to the dean. Go to the dean. I'll be glad to meet with you with the dean. I'll be glad to meet with you, the department chair. But you have not cooperated with this class the whole semester. Sir, please.
He did not email me because he wanted me out of the class because he disagreed with my opinions. I'm paranoid. I knocked on your door.
I disagree with your opinions. You don't know anything about me.
Then why did you yell at me? Why did you yell at me in September in front of the entire class? He's lying.
You know, if you keep this up, I'm going to call the police. Do you have that on your record?
You have tyrannized me, and you are continuing to tyrannize me
Sir,
today.
You need help.
World-class professor? What a joke.
You think of me. You don't know anything about me. You know, if you keep this up, I'm going to call the police. You need help.
He claims he's a Christian, and he's not. He's just behaving in this psychotic way. So at some point, you know, I forget which verse, but Paul says, be at peace with all men, if possible. People forget about that last part. At that point, it wasn't possible for me to be at peace with this guy. He was just being a psychotic maniac. And so Dr. Martin was essentially attacking me, abusing me, because I was exposing the occult imagery of the Enlightenment.